All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are going deep into the future.
The future, huh? Sounds exciting.
Well, specifically, we're going to be taking a look at Chapter 7 of this book, all about humanity's relationship with the natural world.
Oh, interesting. So what's on the agenda for today's deep dive then?
Well, Chapter 7 is all about the future, where we might be headed as a species, emerging tech, different ways we might live, and how science can solve environmental problems.
Got it. So no flying cars then?
Well, a part of me always hopes for a little sci-fi magic, but I'm definitely more interested in the plausible stuff this time around, especially since, I've got that big presentation coming up on this very topic.
Ah, yes. Right. Well, then let's jump right in. What does this chapter 7 have to say about the future?
Well, Section 7.1 jumps right into these emerging technologies, and it's pretty mind-blowing how fast things are changing.
It really does feel like we're on the cusp of something huge, right? Like everything's changing so fast.
It is, right? I mean, just think about AI. It's getting more sophisticated every day, and then you have biotech making these incredible leaps forward.
Totally. It's pretty remarkable.
Like CRISPR, for example. I mean, remember when that first hit the news? Everyone was talking about designer babies.
Oh, yeah, I remember.
It seemed pretty wild at the time. But now, this book is talking about using CRISPR to help solve climate change.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like they're talking about engineering crops to withstand droughts and extreme heat. Isn't that amazing?
That's incredible. Like we're talking about literally using technology to reshape our relationship with the natural world.
Exactly. It's not just about some far-off future. It's about using these technologies to solve real problems impacting everyone.
Now, that is something worth talking about. But of course, we also need to consider the potential downsides, right?
Like, absolutely.
Yeah.
I mean, the book doesn't shy away from the risks either. For all the excitement, there's a lot that could go wrong if we're not careful.
Yeah, true.
Like, take nanotechnology, for example. Tiny robots and materials that can do all sorts of things. But it also seems like there's potential for unintended consequences if we're not careful.
Right. That's a good point. I mean, the potential of nanotech is huge.
Huge, right?
Just imagine microscopic particles cleaning up pollution in our water and soil. It could revolutionize how we deal with environmental damage.
I mean, that would be incredible.
It would be, but we can't just get caught up in the wow factor. We need to think about the potential downsides, too.
Right. It feels like there's this constant duality with these advancements. For every positive, there's a potential negative lurking around the corner.
There is, and the book really highlights that, especially with AI. On one hand, it could optimize resource management, maybe even speed up scientific discoveries that could help with sustainability.
Yeah, that all sounds great. But then what?
But on the other hand, what happens if AI gets too smart, Like it surpasses human control or is used to create even more inequality?
Oh, yeah. That's a scary thought, almost like something out of a sci-fi movie.
It does, doesn't it? But it's a valid concern. It all comes back to the choices we make now. How we develop and implement these technologies is crucial.
It really is. We have a responsibility to get this right.
Absolutely. And that's a message worth sharing, wouldn't you say?
Definitely. I'm starting to see how I can tie all of this into my presentation.
Great. But before you get too ahead of yourself, there's still more to uncover.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
What else do we have on the docket?
Well, next up, we have those different scenarios for future living. Section 7.2, if I'm not mistaken. Things are about to get really interesting, so get ready.
All right, I am ready. Let's dive in. All right, so let's jump into Section 7.2 now.
Predictions and scenarios for future living sounds pretty intense.
It is. The book lays out these two very different scenarios, one optimistic and one pessimistic. Almost like we get to choose our own adventure as a species.
So what's the optimistic scenario look like? Give me the good stuff first.
Okay, so imagine cities that are not just sustainable, but actually good for the environment.
Whoa, hold on. Like, how is that even possible?
Well, the book uses Masdar City as an example. Have you heard of it?
I think so. It's like a planned city.
Yeah, exactly. It's designed to be totally carbon neutral, powered by renewable energy, with green spaces everywhere.
Wow, that sounds incredible. Like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, but in a good way.
Right. It shows that we don't have to sacrifice comfort or progress to be sustainable. And it's not just about cities either. In this optimistic scenario, we're actively restoring ecosystems too.
Okay, now we're talking. So like reforestation projects.
Yeah, but on a massive scale. And using technology to manage natural resources and move towards a circular economy, where we minimize waste and reuse everything.
Okay, I'm liking this optimistic future more and more, but let's face it, there's always that other side of the coin. What does the pessimistic scenario look like?
Yeah, well, it's definitely a cautionary tale. It's what happens if we just focus on tech without thinking about the ethical implications.
So, kind of like unchecked progress. What could go wrong?
A lot, apparently. In this scenario, surveillance is everywhere, so we lose our privacy and freedom. Technology is used for control, and the gap between the rich and poor just keeps growing.
Oh, wow, that sounds pretty dystopian.
It does, right? And the environment suffers too. Climate change gets worse, we run out of resources, and pollution keeps rising. It's a stark contrast to that optimistic vision we talked about.
Yeah, no kidding. It's like two completely different worlds.
And the crazy thing is, it all comes down to the choices we make right now. Right now. We're at a crossroads, and what we do today will determine which path we go down.
That's a powerful message. It really highlights the responsibility we have to make the right decisions, but it also feels kind of overwhelming, like where do we even begin?
Well, that's where science and innovation come in. That's what Section 7.3 is all about. The book argues that science and innovation are key to solving these environmental problems and creating a more sustainable future.
Right, it's like we need all hands on deck to tackle these challenges. We need scientists, innovators, policymakers, everyone working together.
Yeah. Exactly. It's a huge task, but it also feels like a huge opportunity. All right, so we've looked at some pretty amazing technologies and even imagined what life could be like in the future, good and bad.
Yeah, it's been quite a journey so far.
But now it's time to get real and talk about solutions. Section 7.3, the role of science and innovation in solving environmental problems.
Okay, so we're talking about how science can save the day.
Well, it's more nuanced than that. The book acknowledges how big these problems are, climate change, pollution, all of that. But it also says that science and innovation are our best hope for a sustainable future.
Right. Makes sense. But how exactly?
Well, it's not about one magic solution. It's about a whole bunch of different things working together.
A multifaceted approach, as they say.
Exactly. So, for example, the book talks about renewable energy, sustainable agriculture, even things like bioremediation, using natural processes to clean up the environment.
Okay, so like a multi-pronged attack on these problems. I like it.
It's exciting stuff. And it makes you realize just how much potential there is for science to make a difference. I mean, think about all the amazing things we've already achieved.
I know, right? We've literally landed on the moon.
Exactly. So why not use that same ingenuity to tackle these environmental challenges?
I'm with you on that one. So where do we start?
Well, the book dives into a few key areas. Renewable energy is a big one, obviously. We need to move away from fossil fuels ASAP. And there's been so much progress with solar, wind, geothermal.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm always hearing about new solar tech and massive wind farms popping up everywhere. But what about energy storage?
That's a good point. The sun doesn't always shine, and the wind doesn't always blow. But the book talks about some promising developments in battery technology and smart grids that can help with that.
Interesting. So we're getting closer to a fully renewable energy future.
It seems like it. But it's not just about energy. Agriculture is another big piece of the puzzle. Industrial farming is pretty bad for the environment.
It is. There's all that deforestation, pesticide use, and the impact on soil health.
Right. So how do we fix that?
Well, the book talks about regenerative agriculture practices that focus on soil health, water conservation, and biodiversity.
So basically making farms more eco-friendly. That sounds pretty cool, actually. Almost like turning farms into climate solutions instead of problems.
It is pretty cool. And remember when we talked about CRISPR earlier? Gene editing could actually play a role in making agriculture more sustainable, too.
Oh, yeah. Like in engineering crops that are drought resistant or less susceptible to pests.
Exactly. It's amazing how all of these things are connected, right? It's like this web of solutions.
It is, and it really paints a picture of a future where we can live in harmony with nature, using science and technology to make things better.
I like that. It's not about conquering nature, it's about working with it.
Totally. But I have to ask, are science and innovation enough on their own?
That's the big question, isn't it? The book seems to suggest that we need more than just science and technology. We need a change in mindset, a willingness to collaborate, and a real commitment to solving these problems together.
So it's not just about labs and research papers, it's about people working together to create change.
Yeah, and not just scientists and policymakers, it's about everyone getting involved.
I think that's a great takeaway for everyone listening. We all have a role to play in shaping the future.
Couldn't agree more. And remember, the future isn't predetermined, it's what we make it.
Well said. That's a perfect note to end on. So, everyone out there, keep learning, stay curious, and never stop believing in the power of human ingenuity to make the world a better place. And until next time, keep exploring and stay engaged.
Absolutely. The future is in our hands. Let's make it a good one.